Hello and welcome to episode number 133, where I take questions from the Elements community. Some of the topics covered in this episode are on spring allergies, how to maintain energy and immunity when heading into the winter season, Abhyanga oil massage, and eating for a Vata Pitta constitution. So please stay tuned. Hello and welcome to Elements of Ayurveda, Empowering Wisdom of Life. I'm your host, Colette, and in this podcast, I hope to empower you to take charge of your own health by sharing the holistic teachings of Ayurveda, the ancient healing tradition from India. We will also discuss topics like health and wellness, nutrition, yoga, fitness, meditation, breath work, and much more, as well as interviewing lots of inspiring people along the way. My humble wish is to help you to connect to your true nature, to Mother Nature, and to each other. If you like the content, be sure to subscribe to the show, and the new episodes will automatically download for you to enjoy. If you're new to Ayurveda, I recommend you listen to the first couple of episodes where I do an introduction to Ayurveda and the mind-body types. I've also set up a Facebook group for us to connect and to support each other, and I'd love for you to join me over at Elements of Ayurveda podcast group. And now here's the show. Hi there. I hope you're well. It's Colette, and today I am taking questions from the Elements of Ayurveda Facebook group and also by email. I had some great questions submitted for this Q&A episode. So let's jump right into it. The first question comes from Jennifer Elizabeth, and she said that she would love some tips for spring allergies. Well, thank you, Jennifer, for your question. And spring is a time of growth and new life and all these wonderful blossoms. However, with that comes the release of pollen into the atmosphere. Now, this pollen can cause suffering for many, and some of the symptoms may be scratchy throat, sneezing, mucus congestion, stuffy nose, itchy eyes, sinus infection, headaches, fatigue, and other symptoms that can really affect day-to-day life. Now, we tend to blame the pollen for our suffering, and sometimes we may take over-the-counter medication to relieve our symptoms. However, we really need to look at the root of the problem and have more of an understanding of why we're suffering from these allergies. As we move from the winter season into spring, our body is ready to liquefy the accumulated kapha dosha. This excess kapha in our system can really affect our agni or our digestive fire and slow down our digestion, which can result in the accumulation of toxins. And this results in an impairment of the functioning of our system, including our liver, which processes toxins and external offenders in the blood. Now, pollen is considered an external offender. And if our liver is not functioning efficiently, it will be overwhelmed with this onslaught of pollen. And now the immune system will overreact to these external offenders, and it results in allergies. Now, normally the pollen should be processed by the liver and not create any reaction. So therefore, we need to look at what's happening in the body. Is there a lot of ama or toxins in the body affecting the functioning of the liver? Is the liver overburdened or just not functioning correctly? Ayurveda teaches us to prevent a seasonal imbalance by living in tune with nature and implementing seasonal routines or ritucharya. One of the most important seasonal routines is to cleanse at the joint of the seasons between spring and summer, and then summer to autumn. Now, by cleansing the body at the junction of the seasons, we eliminate the accumulated dosha of the previous season. So in spring it will be kapha, and in autumn we will be eliminating the accumulated pitta. And by cleansing, we prevent a buildup of the toxins or ama in our body. We ensure our liver is functioning efficiently, and we help our body transition into the new season, preventing any seasonal sickness or allergies. So a cleanse is something that's highly recommended in Ayurveda and something we should be doing at least 2 times a year. If you want a tailored at-home cleanse, I provide them privately year-round. If you want that support, I'll put that link in the show notes to my Digestive Reset Cleanse. But now I'm going to give you some self-care practices. These are called Dinacharya in Ayurveda, and some lifestyle tips to help prevent seasonal allergies. So again, tuning into nature and purchasing seasonal, organic, and local fruit and veg. We all experience different climates, so that's why I encourage you to buy local and seasonal vegetables and fruits, as nature gives us what we need to balance our body in each season. So going to your local farmers market and supporting the farmers and purchasing what's in season, it's going to be abundant, which means it's going to be cheaper. And you can ask the farmers directly what they're using, what they're spraying their crops with, and so on. So you know exactly what you're purchasing. So that's one of the biggest tips I can give. Purchase seasonally. Nature gives us what we need to balance our bodies in that season. Then eating warm, easy, digestible, freshly cooked foods, again, seasonal foods. We want to bring in springtime, the opposite qualities to that kapha, cold, heavy quality. So think things like soups, stews, khichdi, adding digestive spices, things like fresh ginger, black pepper, cumin, fennel. Of course, these spices would need to be tailored to your unique constitution, but these digestive spices obviously help to stimulate digestion, which may be sluggish during seasonal transitions. It's important is also to be aware of poor food combinations that will upset your digestion, such as be eating beans with dairy. Now, I have a episode on food combinations. It's episode number 26 called What Do I Eat? And I also have a download. I'll add the download to the show notes here, that you can have a download of what those poor food combinations are. They're really good to know. So those poor food combinations, if you're eating fresh fruit with other denser foods, if you're eating beans and dairy together, for example, they may cause a lot of digestive problems, especially because your digestion may be a bit sluggish at the transition of the seasons. So it's really good to be aware of those. We really want to keep the foods easy to digest at this time of the year. Now, also in that download from episode number 26, I talk about the 6 tastes. And at this time of the season, in springtime, it's really good to bring in some more bitter, astringent, and pungent tastes to help pacify cough at this time of the year. And I talk in detail about the tastes and food combos, as I said, in that podcast episode number 26, What Do I Eat? And I'll put the download from that episode in these show notes here also. It's also really important to have a routine with your meals, eating at approximately the same time every day so your body knows when to expect food. It's in a routine, eating your main meal in the middle of the day when our digestive fire is strongest. And also practicing meditation to help relieve stress that can cause havoc on the immune system. If we're very stressed, it can really suppress the immune system, which obviously is affected by this pollen. So practicing meditation, also practicing pranayama, things like alternate nostril breathing would be really good if you have a wheezing or sneezing. Or the Bhastrika breath or bellows breath is good for congestion from kapha type of allergies. I can link to my pranayama video tutorial also in the show notes if you haven't already seen that. So you have instructions on how to do those types of breath practices. Also moving daily is really important at this time, all the time, but particularly at this time of the year, because we want to keep the lymph moving. The lymph does not have a pump like the circulatory system has the heart. So when we are moving, when we are exercising daily, our heart pumps faster, it moves and circulates our blood around the body, and then this will stimulate the lymph to move of course, the lymph is affected when kapha is imbalanced. It can become more heavy and sticky and more stagnant. So the lymph plays a big part in our immunity. So we want that lymph to be moving around the body. So really important to get active daily. Cleaning your sinuses with a neti pot or saline spray to remove the allergens. When you are suffering from allergies or there's a lot of pollen in the air, then I would recommend that you use a neti pot or natural saline spray. That can really help dislodge any of those allergies from the sinuses. And then lining the inside of your nostrils with oil, as this will help to lubricate the nostrils and trap any of those allergens. It could be your sesame oil, olive oil, anything just to put on your little finger, and line the inside of your nostrils with oil. And staying hydrated, really important. If you can sip on hot water or herbal teas that are good for your constitution throughout the day, these warm liquids will really help keep your digestive fire strong, which is what we want. The digestion is really affected at the transition of the seasons. As we're going from one season to the next, the temperature fluctuates. We're not sure what to eat because we're now moving out of those foods from the previous season. And there can be a lot of confusion in the digestion. So trying to keep those warm liquids, hot water or herbal teas throughout the day can really help. And then making sure you have consistent bed time and waking time, ideally getting to bed by 10 p.m. So you're allowing your body to detox and digest and rejuvenate and restore you for the next day. Really important to respect that bedtime. So things to avoid, Jennifer, would be cold, raw, oily foods or mucus-forming foods. Things like dairy or bananas can be mucus-forming for some people. So just be aware of that. Heavy, rich, creamy comfort foods. These foods have the same qualities of kapha. So we know that like increases like. So you definitely want to stay away from any of those really heavy, rich foods. Avoiding ice drinks or cold drinks. These ice drinks or cold drinks will just suppress the digestive fire. So we really want to avoid those because that will just lead to more digestive problems. Avoiding junk and processed foods. They can really affect the liver functioning as well. Avoid late night snacking. Make sure that the last meal is by 7 p.m., as you've heard me say before, and Ayurveda recommends. Avoid daytime napping, as this really increases kapha. So kapha, again, has that sluggish, heavy quality. So if we're taking naps in the middle of the day, and especially after eating, it slows down our digestive system and it makes us more sluggish. We take on more of those kapha qualities. So best to avoid that. Instead, if you're feeling tired, I would do some activity. Go for a quick walk, do some quick squats. If you're working at your desk and you're falling asleep, just get up and do a movement break. That would be better than taking a nap. And finally, avoiding food and lifestyle habits that aggravate your constitution. So by now, hopefully you understand your unique mind-body type. You understand your tendencies, what you need to be aware of, what aggravates your constitution. So obviously avoiding those during the transition of the seasons, and especially when it's pollen time. So there you go, Jennifer. I hope you found these tips helpful. And for further information, you can see podcast number 72. That's called Allergies and Ayurveda. So obviously that goes into detail on allergies. And then podcast number 77, I talk about spring foods for your dosha. So that's lots more information there for you, Jennifer, and anyone else that would like more information. But thanks so much, Jennifer, for submitting your question. I really appreciate it. Okay, next question is from Kira. Kira says, hi, I would like to hear more about the cause of runny eyes and nose. Are they signs of a Pitta imbalance? I have used a neti pot, but it cleans the nose only temporarily. Other tips, some foods to take or avoid. Thank you for your great podcast. Thank you, Kira. I appreciate those kind words and I appreciate your question. So, Kira, your symptoms sound like allergies also. And the symptoms of runny eyes and runny nose are related to kapha and the body trying to liquefy that buildup of kapha dosha that I just talked about. So I recommend that you follow the guidelines I just suggested. in Jennifer's question for spring allergies. They will definitely help you out here. And in regards to neti pot, yes, a neti pot will only clean the sinus, and it should only be really used when it's necessary during allergy season. But the root of the issue is in the digestion, and ensuring your digestive fire is strong, and ensuring that your liver is functioning correctly, and so on. So follow the guidelines I just suggested in the previous answer, and that will really help you a lot, Kira. All right. Thank you so much for submitting that great question. Next question is from Bernadette, and she says, please remember that some of your listeners are in the southern hemisphere, so we are going into winter and hence flu season. How can we maintain energy as we approach winter? Hi, Bernadette, and thank you so much for your question. And I always try to remember you all in the southern hemisphere, and I can certainly give you tips today. So in the southern hemisphere, you're in autumn right now, and you will be transitioning into winter soon. So you're in Vata season right now, which is autumn and early winter. The hot, fiery Pitta energy of summer has subsided, and the mobile Vata energy increases in the environment. In autumn and early winter, the Vata energy is high in the environment. Of course, it depends on the climate where you live, but in general, the Vata qualities of dry, light, cold, and mobile are the same qualities that can be found in nature at this time of year, with cooler temperatures, more windy conditions, and the drying and falling of the leaves. We know the saying by now, as is the macrocosm, so is the microcosm, which tells us that what happens in nature, the macrocosm, also affects our body and mind, the microcosm. Therefore, in autumn, as the Vata energy rises in nature, the Vata energy will also rise in our bodies. Now, for individuals with an already high ratio of Vata in their constitution, or if you have a Vata imbalance, this makes you more susceptible to an imbalance or aggravation of the Vata dosha in autumn and early winter. So Vata is like the wind in nature. It's always moving, drying, scattering things around. And just like the wind, it can be variable. And this variability can really affect our digestive fire, causing it to fluctuate in its efficiency to digest. Now, this can lead to a variability in our energy also. And so to answer your question, Bernadette, of how to maintain your energy and boost your immunity, here are some suggestions. The first one I mentioned earlier. Ayurveda recommends doing a seasonal cleanse to help eliminate the accumulated dosha from the previous season. So in this case, any accumulated pitta heat needs to be cleansed from the body. And a cleanse would also eliminate any accumulated toxins and ensure your digestive system is working efficiently and aid the body in transitioning into the new season. So that's something highly recommended we should be doing regularly. But other factors to keep in mind. The most important point to make for managing Vata is routine. A daily routine that's consistent is key for balancing Vata and will ground the body and mind. Routine in sleeping, waking, and meal times. However, sticking to a routine can be challenging for the spontaneous Vata dosha, but the benefits are really huge. So I really recommend that people work, you hear me talk about it all the time, on this daily routine that's in tune with the circadian rhythms. If you need support, I think you know by now I have that 28-day online self-paced daily habits for holistic health course, helps you implement these daily habits, helps you build structure, give education on circadian rhythms, and lots of other education, how to become your own healer and so on. I'll put that link in the show notes if you want support around that, but routine is really important. Now, this time of year, Bernadette, you want to be transitioning away from salads of the summer to more freshly cooked foods, whole foods that are really rich in protein and good fats, seasoned and served warm. These foods calm Vata by lubricating and nourishing the tissues. They help to preserve the moisture in the body, which is something that's really important because Vata has this tendency to dry out. They help maintain warmth, which is good because Vata has a tendency towards coldness. And they also support proper digestion and elimination, which is essential. So another thing that's important is aiding the digestive system by cooking the food and adding some digestive spices to aid the fluctuating digestive fire. Great digestive spices of fresh ginger, black pepper, cumin, fennel, asafoetida is great for Vata as well. Now, you need to make sure, of course, that the spices are pacifying for your particular constitution, but these in general are great digestive spices. Also, I highly recommend the mindfulness practices. A grounding meditation practice can be very beneficial to calm the anxious Vata mind. With this increase in wind and movement in the atmosphere, that can increase stress and anxiety in the Vata dosha. If you have a high Vata constitution, you may notice that you just don't like the wind. So bringing in practices that can calm the Vata constitution, doing your meditation first thing in the morning is a great way to ground. Also incorporating yoga, a slow restorative yoga practice is great for helping the Vata dosha connect into the body and get out of that mind and that mind spinning that can have a tendency to happen when aggravated. Yoga classes like yin or slow moving class, focusing on alignment, really grounding, a long shavasana can be great. And putting some grounding blankets on, heavy blankets at the end in shavasana, putting an eye pillow on, and be really soothing. Also, the pranayama, the breath work, like alternate nostril breathing, which can be practiced any time of the day. And this is really good if you're feeling any sense of anxiety or you're feeling any stress. We always need to manage that because we know that that can really affect the immune system, especially during flu season, as you mentioned. So Bernadette, I hope you found those tips helpful. And as you can see, they're similar to the tips for spring. However, it's tailored to the dominant dosha in this season. For you now, you need to be focusing more on pacifying Vata, especially if there's high Vata constitution or of a Vata imbalance. So for further information, I have done a complete podcast on transitioning into autumn, and that's podcast number 104. So you'll get a lot more tips there, Bernadette. Okay, thanks again for your question. I hope that information was helpful to you. Okay, the next question is from Sue. And Sue says, going into winter here, is room temperature water okay to drink first thing in the morning, or should it be warm? With no heater on at night, the glass on my bedside table is quite cold, even though it's room temperature. Hi, Sue. Thanks so much for your question. And it's a good one to cover, as we do say room temperature water in Ayurveda. However, as in your situation, your water is cold in the morning. So in this case, I would recommend not having it cold, because if you have cold water first thing in the morning, it's going to cool down your digestive fire and really affect your digestive system. And this time in the morning, we know, Vata is from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. and then Kapha comes in from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. So in the morning, we have these two doshas, and both these doshas are cool by nature. So we don't want to be adding more cool water onto the digestive system, which could cause it to slow down. We want to be bringing in the opposite of a warm beverage to really aid your digestion and your energy, to hydrate you and to promote elimination. So I recommend putting some hot or warm water in a flask or a thermos the night before and bringing that to bed with you. So when you wake up in the morning, you open up your flask or thermos, the water will still be warm, or at least lukewarm in the morning, which is a good temperature to have it. You could also, of course, boil some water in the morning and sip on some plain hot water, or add lemon and ginger to it. But, it's a good question, Sue, because we do tend to say room temperature, but it is best to avoid cold water in the morning. So having your water lukewarm, warm, or hot will be best. Okay, thank you, Sue. I appreciate that. The next question is from Marie, and she says, is it true that we should avoid any oil when coughing? Hi, Marie. Thank you for your question. Well, Marie, it would depend on the type of cough you have. If it's a dry Vata cough, some oil lubrication may soothe your symptoms, like putting sesame oil application to the chest or taking some ghee with medicated herbs. Those may be used for a dry Vata cough. However, if it's a kapha aggravated cough with congestion and mucus and phlegm accumulation in the throat or the chest, then yes, I would avoid oil, or definitely excess oil, as oil has similar qualities to the kapha. They both have that heavy quality, and those light qualities could aggravate kapha further. You'd be better off in a situation like this, if it's a heavy chesty cough, having spices like cinnamon and clove and licorice and turmeric with honey. These would all help to break up that congestion. They're warming spices, they work as a decongestant, and they would be better in that situation. Oil would also be really best avoided if you have like a Pitta aggravated cough, which would come with maybe more of an infection, and the mucus may be more yellowish or greenish. So I really would only recommend some oil, maybe external application of oil, or if you're taking some ghee with medicated herbs in the case of a Vata. Okay, so I hope that helps, Marie. But it's really important, first of all, to determine which dosha or doshas are aggravated and that are resulting in this cough. Okay, thank you for sending me that question. Okay, the next question is from Lola. She says, "Hi, Colette. I've been trying to get into the routine of regular Abhyanga, and I struggle with some of the rules of applying the oil. Does the oil need to be applied before you shower, or can it be done so after a shower? How much oil should be put on the skin? I have experienced a professional Ayurvedic Abhyanga massage, but I don't have the means to use that much oil. So I'm using good quality sesame oil for my Vata imbalance, but a lot less. Is this still okay? Should the oil always be heated? Should you apply soap after applying the oil, or would that be counterproductive because it would dry out the skin more? Thank you so much for your wonderful podcast. It's been a real treasure to me." Thank you, Lola, for your question and for your kind words. And just to explain to new listeners who may not be aware, that Abhyanga is a self-massage which is done with oil. That's ideal for your constitution. So, for example, in general, sesame oil is used to warm, cool Vata dosha. Coconut oil is used to cool the hot Pitta dosha. And sunflower oil is nice and light for the heavy Kapha dosha. Now, ideally, the Abhyanga oil is warm, and especially if you have a Vata or Kapha dosha, which tends to run cold anyway, you want more of a warm oil application. And ideally, the oil is applied before your shower or bath, allowing it to sit on the skin for about 15 to 20 minutes so that the skin can absorb the oil. Now, the amount of oil used will vary, but you don't have to use a huge amount of oil, Lola. When I used to do the professional Abhyanga oil treatments, I used to use a lot of oil on my clients. But when I use oil in my own massage, I don't use as much as I used to use when I used to do the treatment. So don't worry about using as much as the professional, Lola. I don't think that's necessary at all. And for your Vata constitution, I would recommend not using a soap all over your body. When you shower or bath, I would just rinse off with some water. And it's really nice for Vata constitution, which has a tendency towards dryness, to leave a light film of oil on your skin. Now, if you are using soap, I recommend using an oil-based soap for Vata. So that would be best, something like an olive oil-based soap or something like that. Sometimes, people also struggle with a regular Abhyanga routine, as Ayurveda recommends doing the Abhyanga massage in the morning. And I find that nowadays this isn't doable for many people, whether it's family obligations or work. It's just too much to add to the morning list of things to do. So what I recommend sometimes is adding your Abhyanga oil massage to your evening routine. And I believe that this is a great way to unwind at the end of the day. It can really help to calm the nervous system and really help prepare you for a good night's sleep. So I'm not sure if the timing was a struggle for you also, Lola, but I just wanted to remind everyone that not to let perfection be the enemy of progress, even though, of course, we follow Ayurvedic guidelines, but we also have to, as I do with my clients, meet people where they are and tailor it to your lifestyle. And really important to let go of perfection and do your best. Okay, Lola, thanks again for your question. The next question is from Flex, and Flex says, "Hi Colette, I would like to know what suggestions you have for vertigo. I don't get it often, so I'm not sure what triggers it." Okay, Flex, thank you so much for your question. Now, vertigo, for those who are not familiar with it, is the feeling that you or the environment around you is spinning. There can be many reasons for vertigo, from illness to an infection in the inner ear. So it's really important to seek professional help so it can be investigated further. But the feeling of dizziness can result from aggravated Vata and Pitta. Now, with a Vata aggravation, it can appear sometimes that the room is spinning. And what could help with this is that if you fix your gaze, fix your eyes at one point, it will help because it sends messages from the sense organs, your eyes, to the brain that you're perceiving stillness. So that may help a little. With aggravated Pitta, there can be a feeling of unsteadiness in your body. And you may have to sit down because there may be a fear of falling if you don't. And it also may be accompanied by nausea or vomiting. So this can be a symptom of aggravated Pitta. Now, in this case, sitting down and focusing on your breath can provide you with some relief, like just taking a nice deep inhale through your nose for a 4 or 5 count, holding your breath for a moment at the top, and then exhaling through your nose for the same amount of time, and just holding your breath momentarily at the bottom of the breath again, and continue that. That can help to calm things down. Or chewing on a piece of fresh ginger or adding some ginger to hot water can really help with the nausea. Of course, these are suggestions for the dizziness. But really, Flex, I recommend that you seek out professional help to determine what's the underlying root of your vertigo. Even though you say you don't get it too often, I think it's really important for us to listen to these signals from our body, because they're always signals of some imbalance goes on, and always best to catch them in the early stages before it manifests into something else. Okay, Flex, I hope that helps. Okay, we have one final question, and this is from Ulia, who says, "My question concerns the balance between Vata and Pitta in a Vata-Pitta constitution. I have a Vata constitution with a Vata digestion, Vata weight and sleep, but Pitta appetite and Pitta emotions concerning food. So that makes it impossible for me to eat. For instance, just a soup in the evening, or I would get very hungry and very upset in less than an hour. I do eat healthy, yet along with my cooked lentils or veggies, I always need meat and serious amounts of cheese and whatnot. But afterwards, I sometimes feel like I swallowed bricks due to my Vata digestion. How can I make peace with both of my doshas, food-wise and in general?" Thank you so much, Ulia, for your question. Now, I understand it can get confusing when choosing foods, and especially when we're taking in lots of information. And this is where I really recommend a private consult so that the advice is tailored to you, your current needs, your current imbalance, if you have one, your likes, your dislikes, your lifestyle. You know, in a private consult, you receive education on your unique constitution instead of trying to guess. I offer those online. I'll put the link in the show notes if anyone is interested. However, I can definitely give you some general advice today. So it's important to look at the similar qualities of your doshas, Vata and Pitta. Both share the light quality. So it's important for you to make sure that you're bringing in the opposite quality. Because both your doshas have this light quality, we want to bring in foods that are more substantial. So foods that are more substantial will satiate Pitta and will ground Vata. Now, you mentioned that you have a Vata constitution and Pitta digestion and Pitta emotions concerning food. So I'm assuming that this means your appetite or your agni comes on quickly and you may get hangry if you don't eat. Now, the tendency with a Vata constitution is that there will be less of a routine in general. And this means less of a routine around meal times too, which can lead to a scenario where you become so hungry, it results in overeating. So this can be problematic because if there's not a routine in meals, and then the Pitta digestion comes on strong and you have nothing prepared, or you don't know where you're going to get your food, and it can lead to feeling really hungry. And then when you do eventually get to eat or find some food, that it can lead to overeating. And the Vata digestion can really become overwhelmed by a huge amount of food at once. So I suggest that you focus on having regular meals, if you don't already have them, and avoid getting to the point of being extremely hungry, which can lead to this overeating and result in that feeling like you swallowed bricks. So regular meals are really important, and perhaps even a snack in between. If you have really strong Pitta digestion, this can really offset the tendency to overeat because your body feels satiated. Your body also knows that, oh, we eat at this time every day. I know food is coming. And also preparing your food in advance is really important. So then for your meals, Ayurveda recommends eating what you can fit in your 2 hands cupped together. So about a bowl full of food. Having that portion and then waiting 20 to 30 minutes before eating your next serving. It can take sometimes at least 20 to 30 minutes for us to feel the effect of the food in our system and to feel full. Also, I think it's really important, especially for Vata, to add lots of good fats to your meals so that it's filling without being a lot in quantity. So how you can make your food really rich and nourishing and satiating for Vata and for Pitta is to add good fats. And this can really help you to feel full without having massive quantities of food. So I think that's really important. And this is where, if I was doing a consult with you, I'd have you detail what you eat on a regular basis. And I'd put together a plan that incorporates your regular foods, but in a way that's balancing to your body. So I don't have that info, but here's some tips in general. Let's talk about good fats. So good fats will be things like ghee, olive oil, avocado oil, cashew sauce, tahini. These would all help in keeping you satiated. So ways to incorporate these would be to saute your vegetables in ghee before you make your soup, or, adding some ghee into, if you're having grains or your lentils before you eat them really good. If you have your bowl of soup, you could add, but just before you eat, some olive oil, drizzling some good quality olive oil on top. You could add some cashew sauce on top, cashew nut sauce or tahini. These could also be added to your lentils or veggies before eating. You could also add a sweet potato or rice to your soup to make it more substantial in the evening. We do suggest, of course, that you eat your main meal at the middle of the day. So if you're having hard to digest proteins and things like you said you're eating meat and cheese, I would definitely have those more in the middle of the day. Of course, you have to watch out for your food combinations also that I talked about. So check out that link in the show notes that I mentioned earlier about food combinations. So eating dairy sometimes with beans like lentils could be an issue. So definitely would check that out. Of course, you have to be mindful about what your current state is, like if you have a current imbalance, what season you're in when you're choosing what fats and foods you have. I'm very aware that it can be overwhelming at first when you get all this information around the doshas, but I really encourage people to keep their food simple. And this is where in my consults, I build a tailored plan for each client and keep it simple and keep it based around the foods that they already use, but maybe incorporate some other foods, or we could change things around, or the timing of things, or the combinations of foods. But I really want everyone to know that it doesn't have to be so challenging. Like I said earlier, don't let perfection be the enemy of progress. Keep it simple, especially if you're starting out in your Ayurvedic journey. Keep it really simple. And as you go along, you can try new recipes and new foods. But I wouldn't let this information overwhelm you. Keep it simple. If you want guidance or support, I have the online consults, cleanses, and daily habits program I've talked about, and I'll put all those links in the show notes. So there you go. I hope you found that episode helpful. It's always wonderful to hear what questions you have out there. I really enjoy receiving your questions, and thanks again for submitting them. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the podcast so the new episodes will download for you. And if you could leave a rating or review wherever you listen to your podcast, that would be really wonderful. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you're taking good care of yourself out there. And until next time, be well and ciao for now.